Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that, but don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's a new week of CinemAddicts. This is CinemAddicts episode 247. We are reviewing movies for the week of June 21st, 2024. Movies coming out again the week of June 21st, 2024. We have a whole bunch of movies for this week. One of them is Humanist Vampire. I cannot believe this is a title. Humanist Vampire seeking consenting suicidal person. That is way too much. Let's see if the actual movie deserves such a long bleeping title. There's The Devil's Bath, aka what Bruce does every night, right, Bruce, after a hard day's work? Right?
Devil's shower, devil's bath. I mean, it just depends how I'm feeling.
Okay, very good. Agent Recon. No, it is not the Beastmaster 2024, but Eric Holmes and I will talk about whether Mark Singer and Chuck Norris are a good duo in Agent Recon. Finally, there's a movie called Blackwater Lane. Eric and I actually saw this movie. It stars Minka Kelly. Is it a ghost movie? Is it supernatural? Is it a mystery thriller? Eric and I will give you the details on that. And yeah, so 4 movies this week. There's some others. Eric, did you see The Exorcism?
I did.
Oh my goodness. You know what's so funny? They have not sent me a new link for The Exorcism. So we should actually put The Exorcism on top on the features. Very good, Eric. You're going to talk about The Exorcism. I'll look it up for you as well. We have 5 movies courtesy of Eric Holmes with The Exorcism. Bruce Purkey, last week, anything new? And just, as you know, none of us here are real friends. Actually, Bruce and Eric are real friends. I don't really converse with you as a human being. So I'm actually giving you this kind of insight to talk. We're having a real conversation. What have you been doing the last week? And I'm going to tell you why I sound so weird about that in a second. But what have you been up to?
You don't sound weird. You sound on character with Greg, I think.
On character. How dare you? How dare you? Are you saying? You know what? Oh, by the way, I may sound like a little bit weird because I'm going to change my Wi-Fi signal in a second. Okay, sorry guys, you got me. Bruce, you got me. Eric, you got me.
Yep.
Yes, we got you.
Okay, so Bruce, yes, we never really talked during the week, and I blame myself. We just talk about the only thing I say every week to Bruce. I message him on Facebook. Bruce, did you get the link? Bruce, check your emails. Bruce,
yes.
Bruce, do this. What have you been doing? Let's have a real conversation. What have you been doing?
Other than watching movies and TV, which I watched a few other things I'm not even going to talk about here. I watched a comedy special. I won't talk about that. Watched a TV series. Won't talk about that. Watched an exploitation movie called I Drink Your Blood. I'm not going to talk about that. Yeah, been practicing driving with my youngest child, which has been now get to the second one driving soon. That'll be a thing.
Wow.
It's very hot down here. I don't know how hot it is over in your neck of the woods, but
pretty hot as well. Yes,
the 90s over here. So that's the South always in the summer.
I remember my late father. He was so patient with my driving, and I was the one who was a nervous wreck. Bruce, when you're teaching your sons how to drive with this driver's training thing, are you a very patient and chill dad?
I'm pretty patient at this point. We're still just doing parking lots and stuff. So once we get out onto the roads, that may change entirely, but we'll see. At this point, I'm staying patient and crossing my fingers that everything stays on the right track, but we will see.
And speaking of staying on the right track, Eric Holmes, I've had the privilege of listening to a whole bunch of interviews that Eric Holmes has done within the last week. Here's the thing with Eric. By the way, folks, I've been doing this since 91, 33 years in. So that doesn't make me a professional, by the way. I have 33 years of failure. But one thing I never do, and Eric does all the time, I never have a conversation with people. I just interview them for 7 to 8 minutes. I'm in and out, so to speak, right? Family show. But the thing is, I learned from a radio background that you should take a soundbite for maybe 10-second clip, 20-second clip, cut it up, have the engineer cut it up, release it on a audio feed. But Eric, I've listened to some of you're actually interested in the actors and filmmakers you have. I'm looking at running times, 19 minutes, 25 minutes, 26 minutes. Most of my dates when I was in my 20s and 30s never lasted that long. So how are you able to actually converse so long with people? I'm an expert interviewer, so to speak. I think I don't know. I can last barely 10 minutes with them. Is there a secret sauce to you just? Well,
that all has to do with the PR people. So whatever time they give me, I try to use as much of it without like going over, because I know that once I'm done, then they got to hop to the next person. So if I go over, then the other person's behind and they go over, and it just kind of messes up their day. So I try to keep it within the parameters of what the PR people said.
But you're very thoughtful. I know this because when they say keep it under 10 and 12, you do. And you actually, better than me, you try to get out of that interview a little bit quicker to give them extra leeway, the PR people. But when they do give you the leeway, you will go 20 to 25 minutes if they just say, have at it, right? I don't think you just. You like it? You like spending time with people?
I do. Well, like, so there's some people that's like if you're towards the end of the day, like you're one of the last few interviews, like it's pretty clear that the person just wants to get out of there. So the answers are real short or real stilted or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then, so in those situations, I'm like, let's just try to get through that. Nothing against them. It's the, when you're answering the same questions all day, then and they want to get out, and I get that. So we try to get out, but then other people are talkers. Like you'll ask a question and they'll just go on forever. And that's fine too.
Yeah. Well, look, I think within the next week or so, maybe in the next few days, check out Eric's interview with, I think I'm getting his name correct, Jeff Celentano, the director behind this new that Minka Kelly film, Blackwater Lane. Yeah, he talks about surfing. He talks about whole different kind of stuff. Some really interesting directing and acting insights, Eric Holmes. You did a good job on that one.
Thank you.
Do you remember any of the other interviews that you wanted to do?
Nikki Lee. That one was kind of floored me. She, well, I'm gonna watch the interview, but she's got I asked her what her most I guess proudest moment of an actor, or like something she really nailed, and her response to that just blew me away. I was like, holy crap, I cannot believe that's like Daniel Day-Lewis kind of level stuff.
She learned, Bruce, Nikki Lee, one of the stars of Agent Recon, she learned Turkish for this movie I cannot pronounce, because the movie, I think it's I Love You Too, but it's spelled in Turkish. And
it's kind of spelled phonetically almost.
Right. But she learned Turkish within a week and a half. Learned Turkish as much as she could. And Eric, I think we're assuming that she just spoke it phonetically. The rest, she's speaking Turkish throughout the movie. I thought that was weird. Right, Eric? I've never heard that before. That's just completely crazy.
Yeah, that kind of commitment to acting, and it's like a commitment that doesn't take anything away from other people. Like sometimes, you got the method actors. It's like, oh, I'm playing a piece of crap person, so I'm going to be a piece of crap to my co-stars. It's not like that. It's I got to do this thing. I'm going to learn it the best I can, and then just run with it.
Well, let's see if Nikki.
That story was impressive.
Very impressive. Check out Eric's interview with Nikki Lee. It's available on our CinemAddicts YouTube channel. Okay, speaking of CinemAddicts, this month, actually next week, the end of the month, we are doing our bonus episode for Patreon. The movies are, I think, from the year 2012 or 2011. I forget. I think it's 2011, Bruce. Yeah, 2011. The movies are I Saw the Devil and The Kill List. Here's a spoiler alert. I think Bruce has already seen both these films. I think Eric has seen I Saw the Devil. The good news, it's my turn for Patreon. I have not seen I Saw the Devil. I have not seen The Kill List. We will be doing reviews as well as spoiler discussions next week for the bonus episode for Patreon. Thank you guys so much for supporting us on Patreon. Check us out next week as we record that Patreon episode. All right, that's it. I think there was something else I was missing. I'm trying to think. Bruce, Eric, am I missing anything that CinemAddicts CinemAddictsPodcast.com, shower curtain. And no, we're not going to talk about that. Bruce, can you put a kibosh on what Eric's going to say? Let me steer this to Eric. I'm going to get to you in a second. Bruce, just your thoughts on John Hughes as a filmmaker, the 1980s.
Oh no, I know where this is going.
No. Yeah. How dare you laugh? Yeah, just you're laughing because you have good memories of John Hughes movies. They filled your cup. They're fine, as in beautiful, as in.
Well, I mean, he was kind of like, I was punk rocker in that era, and he was kind of like suburban kid making movies in that era. So, but they were okay. They got to some real emotions and points, but they'll always let the a-hole win. I didn't like that so much. Ducky,
The Breakfast Club.
Everyone knows that Ducky was the best character in Pretty in Pink.
Yeah.
Breakfast Club is fine.
Some Kind of Wonderful.
Ferris Bueller's terrible. Some Kind of Wonderful, never watched.
Curly Sue.
Curly Sue.
Curly Sue,
Yes, thank you, Eric.
never watched.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, but so you think John Hughes might be overloved, maybe from the 80s? You think so?
No, I think he's fine. I mean, he's like mom and dad. He's like the guy or girl that you would bring home to mom and dad. Mom and dad would say, "He's such a nice young man." That's what his movies are.
I think you kind of nailed it there.
What about the Godfather trilogy, Bruce? You think that those are nice movies, nice little cute movies? Are they cute? Are they cute to you?
Cute?
Are they cute?
I don't know if
Cute
anyone's
movies?
ever called the Godfather movies cute.
Are they overrated?
I mean,
What
that
do you think?
Marlon Brando's a cherub.
I think the overall sentiment, though, is the Godfather trilogy. Well, I don't know. Maybe the Godfather trilogy is they are masterpieces. Eric Holmes, what say you? Were you on someone's show recently to espouse the virtues of the Godfather trilogy? We're not going to mention crimes or of humanity withstanding, just the movie as the movie. What do you think? Overloved, overrated, the Godfather saga?
I mean, I think John Brooks kind of nailed it on the recent episode of Middle Class Film Class. I agree with everything he said, and it was very refreshing to hear someone espouse opinions that I share, and is very not popular, certainly.
Do you think the whole thing with the Godfather saga, why people love it so much, is it because of the member berries? You think it's sort of a group think that everyone says it's a classic, so kind of like Citizen Kane, oh, I'm going to have to say the Godfather saga is amazing too. Whereas some of the dissenters like you and the aforementioned the John Brooks don't like it so much. You think there's too much people jumping into the pool and not giving their own opinions on the Godfather saga?
I have no idea. I mean, people like it, people watch it, so I can't imagine someone would watch a movie they don't like over and over again.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's like I'm pretending to like the Godfather movies. Like, who would watch those if you don't have to?
Yeah.
You know what? I think the Godfather saga is good, but you know what I think it is? I don't think the Godfather saga would have the impact or exist if TV had been like it is now. Like, the Godfather saga would have just been a really great, like, high-level television series.
On Max.
Yeah, Max or whatever. Yeah.
Well, back then it would have been Cinemax.
Sure. Or a home box office. You know, I'm just thinking, like, because I think it kind of filled that spot. This kind of epic generational stories of crime and love and passion and despair and blah blah blah. And so all that stuff is kind of filled now by these prestige ongoing TV series. And I don't think movies kind of fill that spot so much anymore. They don't need it. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Do you consider Godfather Saga a classic in your eyes, Bruce, or is it sort of? If I recall, it's a notch below for you, right? A little bit of.
It's okay. I mean, I think of his movies, I would much prefer to watch Apocalypse Now and The Conversation, and then I would probably put like Rumblefish, and then I would put The Godfather Saga, and then after that, he's got not very much that's very good.
The Rainmaker.
Right. The Rainmaker is very good. Eric, top tier.
There's
Eric,
the Rainmaker, then everything else.
If you want to hear a more professional conversation, no disrespect to Bruce and Eric, because I'm the moderator of this. The moderator of Middle Class Film Class is one Peter Beta. Did you feel like you were in a professional space for once, joining the Middle Class Film Class crew, even though Tyler and Joseph weren't there? You were, I mean.
Well, Tyler was there. I wasn't. I was just listening to it.
You were Tyler. You embodied Tyler for that episode.
I tried my best to do that.
He's the AI version of Tyler.
There you go.
Okay.
I got like 18 fingers on one hand and 3 on the other.
Okay. If you want to hear more about the trio's respective love for AI, The Godfather, and John Hughes getting Pete, check out Middle Class Film Class. We love those guys. They are wonderful human beings. A person who's a wonderful human being, not a human being, but possibly a monster, a creature, a vampire. Yes. Humanist vampire seeking, consenting, suicidal person. That is the title of this new movie. I'm giving this movie 0 stars just for that title. I can't put it on our podcast descriptions. I might just put humanist vampire. It's a big to-do. It is a headache of a moniker. I don't know. Is this movie worth it? Let's see. It centers on this young vampire named Sasha, played by Sarah Monpetit, and she's fantastic in this. She is very sensitive. She does not want to kill people. She needs to kill people to drain their blood and to eat. She is a creature. She is not a human being. her family has been trying to tell her, you got to go out, you got to kill people, you have to actually bury the corpses because we're not going to do all of this stuff for you because she's spent her entire life drinking from blood bags. Okay. And one day she befriends a lonely guy named Paul, played by Felix Antoine Bernard. And he is a teenager who has suicidal tendencies. Paul and Sasha, they strike up a fast friendship, fast connection, and he is fine with her killing him and feeding off of him. The catch is she tells Paul, before I kill you, we're going to fulfill your dying wish. And then Paul and her go on a mission to fulfill his dying wish or wishes. In Humanist vampire seeking consenting suicidal person. Let's start with Eric Holmes first. Your overall thoughts on this movie?
Well, first of all, I love the title because the title was like, you read that, Humanist vampire seeking consenting suicidal person. One, that's exactly what the movie is. Two, I'm like, wow, let's see about this. So definitely, and if you want to shorten it up, HVSCSP, that's fine. You can say that pretty easy. But this I got like really strong kind of Content de Pew vibes with like a little Taika Waititi thrown in there. It had some humor to it, kind of whimsical, but not like annoyingly so. And yeah, I just kind of dug this overall. It was not exactly because even knowing kind of what the story is based on the title, I wasn't quite sure of what the tone was going to be. And then, of course, once the movie started, you quickly get what the tone is and kind of maintains that throughout. I really love the relationship between Sasha and Paul. I guess the thing that was kind of weird about it was sort of what it says about depression. It's not good, it's not bad, but it is kind of I guess messy and gray, which sort of works, I guess, because that's kind of what depression is. It can get messy. Like on one hand, it's like if someone's depressed and they want to kill themselves, you don't want them to, but at the same time, if you feel that way, you want to. So like on one hand, you don't want them to kill themselves. On the other hand, you want them to end their suffering. So it's got that kind of gray area as far as the morality of that goes. And I appreciate that. And yeah, this was just a good movie all around, I think.
It's directed by Ariane Luis Saez. I'm probably butchering her name. Bruce, your overall reaction and thoughts on this movie?
Yeah, I quite love this movie. Also, you did kind of bury the lead, and I won't describe it very much other than to say that literally the lead of this movie is a birthday party that the young version of Sasha has, where they have a clown performer at it. And I just want to say that scene is amazing. There's a great little punchline, including a light bright that happens a little bit after that, too, which made me laugh out loud. If you didn't notice it, it was quite hilarious. Yeah, I think this movie is a great example of what a good script with an indie movie that actually goes somewhere. Like I was worried when I saw it, this was going to be one of those door closing movies that Eric hates, indie door closing movie, like just sort of dour, super, super subtle, super like artsy, quiet movie. And it's much more vibrant than that. If anything, what I really appreciated about this is it almost, to me, and I think Eric's comparisons were pretty good, but I would also say this is like the movie that I don't think Tim Burton can make this movie because he can't make a movie with like so much production design and so much flashy stuff going on that he can't actually make this movie. But I think he wants to make this movie. I think this is the movie Tim Burton in his heart would love to make because it's ultimately kind of this very bittersweet goth sort of love story, maybe.
Maybe, yeah, sort of.
I love the characters. I love the fact that there is so much of a larger world created around it. And these kind of movies where they're a small movie, but it makes you want to know more about the world. Like even the little bit of the world you live in, I wanted to. I loved the characters that I saw and how much I saw of them that I wanted to see more of them. So there, for example, her aunt. You get a little hint of what her aunt's all about. You love it. Someone kind of joins her aunt's life. I won't say how that happens. That character was great. I don't want to see a ton of terrible sequels to this movie, but it's the kind of movie that creates a rich enough world in the 90 whatever minutes this is.
90 minutes, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, that it invites that. And I think that's a great sign, once again, of well-written characters where they just trim all the fat away. They give you a basic story you can understand, characters you care about, and you follow it through. And it surprised me. I didn't know where it was going exactly. And even to the very end, I was like, how is this movie going to end? I know one way it could really end easily, but is it going to end that way? I'm not sure, So I love this movie quite a bit.
Yeah, the ending was surprisingly resonant for me. I don't know about you guys, but it knocked me out in a good sense. So I enjoyed the ending. My fear for this while I was watching it was it would be too hip for its own good. And it wasn't. It straddled that line and it did it really well. Bruce mentioned subtlety. It straddled that line too, because it didn't become too much indie hipster-ish thing where it meandered. It was very focused. And I feel that there are very few, if any, flaws with Humanist Vampire, other than the title. I know I disagree with you, Eric. I'm thinking more of just fitting the title into this podcast.
HVSESP is cool.
HVSC, okay. Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person. Here's a caveat, though. It's New York and LA this Friday, nationwide release on June 28th via Drafthouse Films. If you want to get on board early, because I'm predicting this, I don't know how Bruce and Eric feel, but this movie will be remade into an American film in 2 to 3 years from now. You will see the American version on Prime Video, Netflix, or any other streaming service. Do you guys feel the same way? Because I think this is ripe for the remake. I
mean, maybe it'll be Tim Burton. He'll do a bad version of
God,
this.
I could see that happening. No, I think this is going to be beloved cult film for sure. Sure, absolutely. I could see, teenagers for years loving these characters.
Yes, and Sarah Mon-Petit, I have not seen any of her other stuff. I'm flagging her on IMDb. I will watch whatever she's in. She is a star in the making if she's not already a star. All right, let's get to ratings. Eric Holmes, your rating on Humanist Vampire.
I don't know.
Okay,
I kind of want to go 4.5, but also I want to go 5 because I'm trying to think of what a better version of this is, and I can't seem to think of what it would be.
Okay, so
I'm gonna stick with 4.5, but this could go up on a rewatch. I think
4.5 to grow. Bruce Purkey.
In fact, it might even go up by the end of this podcast. Who knows?
Okay, yeah, clue us in on that. That'd be very cool. Bruce, what about you?
I'm 5, easy on this. I want to own it. I want to watch it again. I feel like this is one of those movies I can watch even pieces of it over and over again and just enjoy it. So yeah, easy.
Okay, without giving too much away, I mentioned the third act. And I will mention third acts later in a review that I'm going to be doing in about 10, 15 minutes. The final moments of this movie really nailed it for me, and it took it up another notch where this is easy rewatchability. It was a perfect ending, and it really, I think Eric was talking about the themes of depression and loneliness, suicide, and all that stuff. I'm not saying everything got wrapped up in a nice little bow, but it's a very cleverly written, well done movie from the heart. Easy 5 stars for me as well. Or Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person. Again, New York, LA on June 21st and June 28th nationwide via Drafthouse Films. Now, next up, Eric and I will take a little bit of a siesta while Bruce takes out a fluffer, it's some sponges.
Goes behind the cinematic shower curtain.
Behind the shower curtain.
I don't think that's what a fluffer is. I think you got that wrong, sir.
Oh, I apologize. I was probably watching something else before the show, family show.
But hey, if it keeps your interest, we'll send one in for you.
That's it, right? That keeps one's interest. Very good, Bruce Purkey Family Show. The Devil's Bath. It's 1750 Austria, and that's all I know about this. I don't know, Bruce. You mentioned something, gave some clues about whether me or Eric will like it. I think Eric still has a link. I still have a link. We're going to cover it next week, me and Eric, because that's a nationwide release. Next week it's going to be on Shudder. But for this week, it's going to be at New York's IFC Center. Bruce Purkey has a skinny on The Devil's Bath. What is it about? And your review.
So directed by Severin Fiala and Veronica Franz, who you might know those names. They've kind of got a lot of indie buzz for previous movies they made. They made Goodnight Mommy, the original Goodnight Mommy, and not the superior one that you thought was done by what's her name?
Naomi Watts.
Yeah, Naomi Watts.
I love that movie.
The Lodge, that also. Neither of those movies worked for me very much at all. I had big problems with both movies, but both movies looked really interesting. They had really cool cinematography, very... they're striking, I guess I would say. And this movie starts out in a similar way. So it takes place in 1750, and it tells you right at the beginning, you're in Austria in 1750. The first little pre-title sequence, I'm going to tell you this because it's in the very first 2 minutes of the movie, and it kind of sets the scene, is you see a young mother. They're out in the, very, looks like poor, like just living in the land. She has a baby. She's out working in the working in the fields or something. And she picks up her baby and she walks off into the forest, walks off into the top of a waterfall, drops her baby off the waterfall. It bounces down into the distance and, of course, must be dead. And then the next scene is her walking up to, looks like a castle or a battlement, knocking on the door. And they open the door and she says, "I have committed a crime." You see her beheaded. Don't see her get beheaded. You see her beheaded. She's there with no head, and someone is cutting off her finger. And then the next scene, you cut to a young woman, Agnes, played by Anya Plashking. I don't know how to say her name. It's a very hard name to pronounce for my American eyes. So you basically, that whole opening thing, you're like, what's the point of that? And there is a point to it. It takes a long time to get there. And that's why I say this could be an Eric, this could be the across to the vampire for Eric. This could be like one of those movies that just takes so long to get to the point he might have trouble with it. All that being said, it's basically Agnes, this young woman. It starts with her getting married, same time period. It's obviously a country wedding. She's getting married. There's a festival. She goes off, and the very first thing that happens is her husband shows her house, which she did not know she was going to have. She seems kind of happy with that. And it basically, from the very beginning, you feel like, oh, she's married. It's not her life anymore. Her life is under the control of other people now. And you see that immediately starting to weigh upon her. As a young woman, she's told what to do. She has a husband. She has roles that she has to fill. And as of many people in that time period, that was probably a huge weight to bear and probably really hard for many women to cope with. And it probably caused lots and lots of mental/physical anguish. So the majority of this movie is her struggling with that. And it does it for a long time. And it just kind of shows you her life. And your enjoyment of this movie is going to depend a lot about how much you are invested in just watching her character kind of slowly degrade. But the good side of that is the performance is remarkable and committed and very, very, very good. And she carries this movie on her back. And though I don't love this movie, and though I wish it really would get to the point, when it gets to the point, and it does eventually, so once again, I'm pounding this nail hard for Eric, it eventually gets to this point. It does make it in a really interesting way. And it's telling a story about the past that you don't really hear about. And it's a very interesting chapter in history, which I didn't really know about. And the way the last few scenes play out are really quite affecting and quite harrowing, I would say. It just takes a long time to get there. So I'm going to be a mild recommend on this, but I would say go in if you're a super art house loving indie film, slow burn, very grounded kind of period piece with great acting. I think you'll find a lot to love here. If you're a horror fan that wants something to kind of really get your heart racing, maybe not so much for you.
This might be a no for Eric. Eric, you will be absolved from watching The Devil's Bath. I'll always do a rewind next week. You don't have to watch this if you are too busy, by the way. That's what. So says Gregeth. What do you think of that, Eric? Are you okay with that?
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens on the.
I would say don't run to it. If you're like, I'm just kind of in the mood to give this a try, go for it.
This sounds like a give it a half hour. So, well, no, actually it doesn't, because you said it eventually gets to where, I mean, if it's gonna end up in a space, then I'm willing to forgive the beginning stuff. But sometimes it's like the hurry up and get to the point is usually a result of okay, you're not getting to the point, but you're also not doing anything interesting either.
Yeah, I think it's going to probably lean more towards that for you. But this is one of the few cases where I'm not going to give the spoilers here because I want to let people, if they want to discover it, discover it. For you, I would probably tell you the basic idea of what is going on here. And then you could decide. I don't think it would ruin it for you. I think it might either inspire you or be like, okay, I don't need to know that.
I'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
I'm actually curious now.
I will tell you the last 20 minutes, a lot of stuff does happen in the last 20 minutes and some pretty extreme stuff. So it'll definitely, after you've been dozing for whatever the previous 1 hour and 35 minutes, you'll be like, whoa, something's happening. Wait, what's going on here?
So what is your rating on The Devil's Bath, Bruce?
I'm going to go 3 stars. Like, I'm probably one strong foot in Eric's camp on this one. I wish it could have got there in a little more vibrant way, but I super admire the commitment all the way around and the production that's going on here. And I really do love the actress and what she's and what she's doing here. And boy, oh boy, the commitment of that last 20 minutes or so is pretty gangbusters great. So it's worth it, I think, in the long run for me, at least.
Okay, so that is The Devil's Bath. Opens at IFC Center this Friday, June 21st, and releases on Shudder June 28th. Next up, Chuck Norris, Mark Singer, Derek Ting. Wait, who's Derek Ting? Derek Ting is a writer, director, and star of Agent Recon. He co-stars in the movie with Chuck Norris, with Mark Singer, and the aforementioned Nikki Lee, who we talked about in her Turkish film earlier in the podcast. Agent Recon centers on a covert military task force. They track a mysterious energy disturbance at a secret base in New Mexico that is suspected of experimenting on alien technology. So the character of Derek Ting, he plays this interesting this agent who has superpowers himself. He goes into the mission with Mark Singer as his superior. They go in on a rescue mission to this remote outpost in New Mexico. Chuck Norris also joins in the fray. He's one of the good guys. That is Agent Recon on digital and on demand June 21st. Derek Ting, he had within the last, I think 8 or 9 years, he's done, I think 4 movies. He's directed 4 movies with working just on an indie budget. So credit to him. And during my interview with Derek Ting, you've actually interviewed him as well, Eric. He mentioned how really with scarce resources as an indie filmmaker, he was able to make something like Agent Recon, get Singer and Norris onto his troupe. Kind of cool. I just had a fun time with this movie. Eric, what is your review of Agent Recon?
So I think this is probably an example, sort of what you said. The ambition goes well beyond what the budget is. And I think for a lot of people that might be a hindrance or barrier to entry, so to speak. After talking with Derek, you can tell that he's really got passion for this thing. And first of all, I had no idea when I was watching it that this was the third. I think they have Agent Revelation, and this is the third one, Agent Recon.
Yes.
And there's also certain aspects that I feel like if I watched the previous ones, I might be more locked in. But you just kind of roll with it. Someone says the thing, and it's like, okay, I get it enough that I can roll with that.
Yeah, there's just a lot of story with Agent Recon. Agent an alien? Where's the suit? Is he a super being? Is he just a man, part robot? Oh, what is Chuck Norris? So Chuck Norris, is he right?
Chuck Norris was weird because when he showed up, I'm like, man, is his acting wooden in this? And then he's like a robot or a AI person. Right, so that's his character.
Made sense. Yeah.
Mark Singer was absolutely fantastic in this. I loved Mark Singer in this.
I told you, Eric, you hadn't finished the movie by the time we started speaking on the message. I go, Eric, wait till you see the third act when Mark Singer does his big monologue. Yeah. How good was that, huh?
Mark Singer was great in this from start to bit. Like early on, he's kind of like the grizzled war veteran, like, I've got, and it was pretty fun. And then, he just has like, Mark Singer's just like one of those actors that like just goes for it every time. And I don't know. I think he's slept on. And congratulations for Derek Ting for bringing him in this because, I think watching Mark's, like, if this is not your type of movie, I think it's worth it just watching Mark Singer in this because he's fantastic in this movie.
Right. It'll be interesting to see where Derek Ting's career goes past Agent Recon. because I think a lot of people will invest in him as a filmmaker because they see that he can do all of these things with a limited budget, and he does a credible job in this film. And look, I don't blame him for bringing. He mentioned he had Michael Dorn on for the last Agent, the previous Agent film, and now for this one he upped it up. No disrespect to Michael Dorn, but now you have two for the price of one. You have Chuck Norris and Mark Singer, and they do a great job. And for me, it was a member berry just to see Chuck Norris in action again. It was just fun, even though he is playing that wooden AI character. It's still fun to see him, and he has a really cool moment towards the third act of Agent Recon. And Derek Ting himself is. I'm interested to see the previous works to see how they measure up to Agent Recon, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of his movies. So, Eric, final thoughts and your rating on Agent Recon.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to see Derek Ting in more movies because I think he's kind of hindered in this a little bit because he's acting and directing. And sure. I think if you're trying to do action in the way his character is, I think you're better served as just an actor with a different director as opposed to directing yourself. That said, I think he's got a lot of potential as an action star, and as well as a director. Like, I would like to see what this movie looks like with like a like $50-100 million budget, like with that, that same enthusiasm that he has for this. But this kind of falls around 3-star banger territory. Because I think there's going to be people that just are not into this at all. But then there's going to be others like me that's like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. And plus Mark Singer. Okay. And as far as Chuck Norris, I'm not that big of a Chuck Norris fan in general.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It was cool. It was cool seeing him in this regardless.
Yeah, different courses for horses. Eric, your rating on Agent Recon?
Yeah, I'll probably go 3-star banger on this.
Yeah, 3-star banger for Eric Holmes. For me, it's so great how Eric actually three banger for Eric Holmes. Ding 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 ding. It's so interesting how he actually talks about other people, and he doesn't know if people will like it or not. I'm very selfish. I am biased. I have my own ratings. What did I give this movie? No, don't put 4 stars. I'm giving it 3.5 stars. Eric Holmes, right down the middle, solid actioner. Looking forward to seeing what more. Look, I hope Derek Ting actually directs a different movie with Mark Singer on board again. Let's just see more Mark Singer movies, please, because he really knocks Agent Recon out of the park. Movie is out on digital and on demand Friday, June 21st. Now, look, we're going to end with The Exorcism, but next up, Bruce Purkey is all about the Blackwater Lane with Minka Kelly, Dermot Mulroney, and Maggie Grace. Bruce Purkey, these are your type of movies. What did you think of Blackwater Lane? Give us your review.
I didn't watch Blackwater Lane. What are you talking about?
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Bruce is in his esoteric existential trip. He refuses to review Blackwater Lane.
I picked a different color, and I got a week ahead of myself, so sorry.
Okay, sorry. We're kidding, folks. Okay, so it stars Minka Kelly, Dermot Mulroney. By the way, I think Eric Holmes and I have seen 50 Dermot Mulroney films within the last, 6 months, Eric? Is that true? I mean, like, how many Dermot Mulroney?
A couple of years. Because he was in the Blazing World. I think that was kind of the start of recent Dermot Mulroney movies, I think.
What were you saying, Bruce?
The Dermatica songs. I can't.
The Dermatica. Okay, and I love Maggie Grace from Lost. I love Minka Kelly from Friday Night Lights. Minka Kelly, it's described as a supernatural thriller based on the wildly successful New York Times bestselling book by B.A. Paris. So Minka Kelly, she plays a woman named Cass. And what happens one night, she drives home everything. She has it's the end of her school year. I think she's a professor or a teacher. And she go to the local area and to have a local bar, have a couple of drinks. She goes home and she calls her husband, played by Dermot Mulroney, and he tells her, whatever you do, don't take the Blackwater Lane. That's very unsafe. She still decides to take Blackwater Lane because that's a shortcut to their home. We're going to talk about their home in a second. It's very beautiful, and it's very state-like and mansion-like and Downton Abbey-like. We'll get to that in a second. So as she's on Blackwater Lane, she sees a car. First of all, a car almost tailgates her and passes her by. And then she sees, if I recall, a car on the side of the road. And she slows up to the car and she sees a woman slumped over on the steering wheel. And as she's actually driving up close and she's next to that car, the scene cuts to the next day, and we see Minka Kelly just trying to figure out what happened the previous night. As the movie unfolds, you actually get to that event, that inciting event, several more times in the narrative. Dermot Mulroney, again, plays her husband. Her best friend is played by Maggie Grace. Again, you guys might know Maggie Grace from her work in Lost. So the key for Cass, played by Minka Kelly, is to figure out who murdered the woman. While she's doing that, she might be seeing things like ghost apparitions of her mother in the house. She also might be seeing a fox outside her mansion and birds who are dead. Just different kind of visions. When she's having a bath, she feels someone is pushing her down. There are different things that are happening to Cass. Who knows? She might be seeing things. She might have dementia. She might have some mental situations going on with her. Or is she actually seeing these things? Because again, this is deemed a supernatural thriller. That is Blackwater Lane. It runs 108 minutes. Eric Holmes, you had a really good talk with Jeff Celentano. Talk aside, how was the movie for you?
I like this movie a lot. I'd kind of put this up there with Image of You. And much like Image of You, I think there's I don't know what people think of this. I just thought it was really good. It had some supernatural elements, but then there's like, is it, or is the character being gaslit? That's kind of what I was weighing as I was watching it. And the ending kind of rides the line of ridiculous, clever. I think it leans more towards clever, but different horses and courses and all that.
Right.
I don't know about you, Greg. I thought this movie looked fantastic. Like the cinematography, like there was like certain like wonders and moves. Like this thing was absolutely gorgeous to look at.
That friggin' house. It's not a house. It's literally a historical. I don't even know what is it called? A manor? It's just so big, and it's out there in the middle of sort of nowhere. It looks like something from a period drama. It's a gorgeous looking location, and the surrounding area. I think it's set in England, right, Eric? So it's just a beautiful looking movie. Period. So.
Yeah. I don't know what more to say about like plot wise, probably the less the better. But this is also like much like Image of You. Like after I watched this, I haven't got to the book yet, but this is definitely one I want to read the book and then kind of go back and watch the movie again and kind of compare and contrast the two, see what they kept, see what they changed, that sort of thing. But yeah, this is another banger from the Dermot Mulroney Renaissance.
Yeah, look, I really liked everything about this movie. I do have a couple of nitpicks though. Okay, it's 108 minutes. I feel it could have been 90 to 95 minutes. There's just a lot of stuff that is thrown into this pot boiler thriller, which is, I know that's part of the genre, but yeah, I think I'm not going to say it wore out its welcome, but that's a lot of minutes. I just wish it was cut down a little bit more. The final act was fine. It was fine with me, but I just really loved all of that lead up to figure out, is Cass seeing these things? Is Cass being gaslit? Is it a supernatural occurrence? I really love the mystery behind Blackwater Lane. And that's why, for most part, I definitely recommend Blackwater Lane. Eric, your rating on Blackwater Lane and your final thoughts.
I think I will go 3.5, but again, this could probably go up to a 4 on a rewatch, I think.
Yeah. Blackwater Lane for me, 3.5, right down the middle, solid thriller, worth watching. I don't know, Eric, you might agree with me on this. For me, I'm in the bag when it comes to mystery thrillers, supernatural mystery thrillers like this. So I'm gonna have my mom watch this later on tonight. So
I would say if you watched Image of You and that was like one of your movies, definitely check this out. And maybe vice versa. Like if you haven't seen Image of You and you'll watch this and you dig this one, maybe I think they would just make good double features just in general.
Okay. So actually the biggest movie that's coming out is not any of the movies that we covered this week. I've had the screener for The Exorcism starring Russell Crowe for about 2 weeks. I waited till last minute to get it, to actually watch it. My link expired. The good news is Eric Holmes had a new link, and I have no idea, but Eric, you got The Exorcism under the gun. Thank you for that. Russell Crowe, what is this movie about, and your overall rating thoughts on The Exorcism? Thank you.
So this is basically, I don't know if you've seen Inland Empire, but it's kind of similar to that. Russell Crowe's a star of this Exorcism movie that they're making, with Adam Goldberg as the director, and they're shooting this movie, and a lot of the movie that they're shooting kind of it's art imitates life sort of thing. And while they're shooting the movie, Russell Crowe is kind of what's too much? I guess strange things on set start happening. And while it's called The Exorcism, so he starts seeing things and things start happening to him. And then it becomes one of those what's in his head, what's in real life, and then it comes to a head at the end. I think Inland Empire does this better just because the premise is so bonkers and David Lynch leans into bonkers. And just in general, the kind of style of this movie isn't my cup of tea because it definitely has like a Conjuring, Insidious kind of vibe to it that I don't usually like. That said, by the time we got to the third act, I was really getting into this a lot more than I was the rest of the movie. I can say my score's not going to be that high, but I think this might be a orphan first kill situation where even though I'm not in love with it, I think a lot of people are going to be, and much more so than I am.
Okay, so it's directed by Joshua John Miller. Do you know what the relation is?
I do. Let's see. He was in Near Dark. He was in
He was okay. His late father is
Class
Jason
of
Miller.
99.
No, his late yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But Joshua John Miller's late father is Jason Miller. Joshua John Miller's half sibling, his half brother, is Jason Patrick. His late father Jason Miller was one of the priests in The Exorcist.
Okay.
Jason Miller. Yeah.
That makes sense.
And he was also a celebrated playwright. He wrote that championship season, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. Should also point out Sam Worthington pops up in this. Adam Goldberg is the a-hole director. I hope Joshua John Miller isn't like that in real life. Otherwise, I'd feel bad about recommending this, but I'm guessing it's his character. It's fine.
Bruce, do you feel better? Do you feel better that it's not really an exorcist film? Exorcism film? It's not. It isn't, right? Bruce, is it different from? I mean, Eric, is it different from?
It is, but it's couched in we're making a movie and weird things are happening, and then it goes into that. It's not a remake of The Exorcist. We'll put it that way.
Bruce, knowing that little twist, would you have given, if you had more time during the week, would you have given The Exorcism a shot, maybe?
I had heard the twist, and I'd also heard some other things about it, and no.
Wait, what's the twist?
The twist, so like you said, how it's just like a film within a film and all that stuff. I
it's like this unofficial commentary on the making of The Exorcist by the son of somebody who was involved in The Exorcist, and it's kind of a pseudo version of
Recon.
Okay.
Not exactly.
And then it just wants to become an Exorcist movie at some point.
It's more we're making a cursed film. So the movie that they're shooting within the movie could be anything. It just so happens to be an exorcism type movie. But yeah, I guess I get that. David Hyde Pierce also shows up in this, and he's quite good. And yeah, I think this movie is the best in the third act, which is odd because usually that's where most movies fall. But
how does this compare? How's Russell Crowe in this? Is it as good as Sleeping Dogs? Sleeping Dogs.
Russell Crowe just lately, much like the Dermot Mulroney Renaissance. I'm loving Russell Crowe more and more as he ages, and his roles he's choosing, and a lot of them are real similar. But with this one, he goes certain places in this that almost you would expect Nick Cage to go in, and instead it's Russell Crowe getting there.
That's awesome. That's The Exorcism. It's out in theaters on Friday. Eric Holmes, your rating?
I think I talked myself up from a 2.5 to a 3, but I think this might be a 4.5 for most people.
Okay. Wow. Yes. Okay. Very cool. Very, very cool. That is 3 stars from Eric Holmes for The Exorcism, starring Russell Crowe, directed by Joshua John Miller. That is our features. Let's get to our recommends. Inside Out 2, saw it with my niece and my sister and my brother-in-law at the Disney lot. Had a good time. Just makes if you like Inside Out, you're gonna like Inside Out 2. I feel that the sequel is better than the original. This made me almost cry, almost tear up. It was a very good movie. If you don't have a niece, if you don't have a kid, but if you like animation, go. This is one of those movies that you do not need to have a kid or a kid as a friend or a relative to take as an excuse. It's actually a top tier animation film. My rating is 4.5 stars for Inside Out. Definitely, please see this movie. A movie we'll be covering next week. Bruce Purkey wants to give a little mini preview this week because this movie is coming out, I think, in either New York or LA this week. I'll get to it in a second. Bruce, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I won't give really a review of it per se, other than it's going to be really interesting to talk about. Green Border. I'll give you the basic idea of Green Border. First of all, directed by Agnieszka Holland. I don't know how to say her name exactly.
Agnieszka Holland, yeah.
Yeah. Who has been making movies for, 35, 40 years?
Right. I'm thinking like Europa. That has to be like either late 80s or early 90s, Bruce. So
yes.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And she tends to make movies that are about, a lot of times about like Nazi stuff and the Holocaust and all kinds of things that are like, injustice to man. And this is a little bit more around the immigrant experience, which Io Capitano earlier this year for us was a huge hit. I'll just say this is a little different version of it. I'll just give you the basic concept, which is kind of interesting. And that is you've got the border of Belarus and Poland, and you have immigrants trying to come up through Belarus, go across Poland, and go to other places a lot of times. The problem is Belarus will, quote, kind of invite the immigrants in there only to throw them over the border, and essentially shove them over the border into Poland, who doesn't want them, and it's almost a political act. And then the Polish will essentially throw them back over the border. And you essentially have this inhumane tennis match of sorts with people in the middle of it, where they're basically just getting pushed back and forth across the border. And in between that, they're getting, of course, treated horribly. And usually these are immigrants coming from, Syria or Afghanistan or Africa. In some ways, kind of the next chapter after Io Capitano. What this movie does, it's really, really interesting. And I'll just get that, and then I'll get out of here. Other than say, like, I do recommend it. I won't give my final rating until we actually talk about it next week. But this movie is really interesting in that it shows you, in one point, a very focused view of a group of immigrants in this journey. At another point, it kind of focuses on one of the border guards and what their expectations are on the Polish side. And then another point, it kind of takes the point of view of activists. And it kind of goes to each of those, and then it goes back and forth between them. So some people will be put off by the structure. Some people will be drawn in by the structure. And this movie, like many of her works, Holland's works, is highly political. It's highly activist in its own self, to the point that I think the president of Poland actually denounced it as propaganda and akin to Nazi propaganda. And I don't think they even allowed it to be considered for last year's Oscar for Polish films. So put that in the back of your mind. It's interesting to see a movie that's so overtly about something. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just going to beat around the bush. This movie is saying something in what it's doing, and it's doing it in a pretty bold way. So
runs at 152 minutes. Was that a slog for you, Bruce, or was it?
It wasn't, because there's so many points of view. So I think that you spend like the first probably 90 minutes, you have like about 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes with each point of view. You get invested in those point of views, and then it starts interweaving those points of view. Even a little before that it does, but it starts interweaving those points of view to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, I want to know what happened over there. What happened to those people I saw earlier? So I think it's really well done. I think it's pretty masterful, actually.
Oh, masterful stuff. Okay, what is your rating on
I'm not going to rate it until next week. No rating till next week.
Okay.
Do you want me to rate it? I can.
Forum. Yeah, because look here. Okay, my apologies, Bruce, because here, Friday, New York. It's at New York's Film Forum, June 21st. Next week, it's going to be when Eric and I see it. It's going to be at Los Angeles at the Lamley Royal.
Okay.
So, for all intents and purposes, New York Film Forum, your final thought and rating on Green Border.
This might go up. I'm going to say 4.5 at this point. It might go to 5 the more I sit with it. I've just finished it three hours ago or so. There is some stuff in here that will hit you pretty hard. I think this is a pretty great movie. And it like I said, some people I think we're going to complain that it meanders, but I don't think it meanders. I think it just gives you a very rich view. It's different than Io Capitano, where you are focused on those people and you're following them from beginning to end, which has its own great purpose. This is different than that. It's like this is a whole issue from lots of different sides, and I think that is its own kind of richness. So yeah, I'll go 4.5 at this point, maybe 5 later.
Okay, very, very good. Well, we'll see next week how you feel, Bruce, when Eric and I review. At least one of us is going to review or do a rewind on Green Border, because that'll be in LA next week. New York again at the Film Forum this Friday, June 21st. One last thing about Green Border. It is the winner of the special jury prize at the 2023 Venice Film Festival. I guess according to Bruce's review, deservedly so. And it's the audience award winner at the 2024 International Film Festival, Rotterdam. So a lot of awards for Green Border. Yes, Eric Holmes, you have something in your yes.
I just realized I forgot a movie that's coming out Friday that I did see. It's called Thelma with June Squibb.
You saw that?
I did. There was so much going on. I was thinking it was last week, and then I looked it up and I'm like, oh crap, that's coming out Friday. But we can talk about it more next week.
Yeah.
But,
what's your final thoughts and rating, Eric, on Thelma?
It's sold as a John Wick with June Squibb. Is not that at all. The story's completely different. I'm just kind of taken back by it, so maybe I shouldn't. I would say just watch it. It's incredibly sweet. The characters are really sweet with each other, and it's it turned on my heart light a little bit more than I was expecting. Probably 4 stars, and yeah, check it out.
Yes, okay.
Sorry, I'm giving this movie short shrift. I literally thought this was for next week.
No worries. Okay, so that is Thelma, and that's it. Final thoughts. This is episode 247. We're done. We covered so many movies.
Oh, we are not done. We are far from being done, sir.
I keep forgetting this.
You just don't care about our listeners, do you?
I keep forgetting. Okay, let's go now. Are we doing What's in the Box? Oh, no, we're doing a Patreon pick. Patreon pick for fake Patreon.
Someone you just never remember. You can never remember this person. Is he even a Patreon member? I'm sure.
Fake Patreon member Ken Cunningham, who's been a Patreon member for years. I call him a fake Patreon. I'm sorry, Ken Cunningham. You are a very treasured person in our CinemAddicts Facebook group, as well as our Patreon. Ken's pick this week, Ken Cunningham's pick, is Margin Call. Eric has seen this a million times. Bruce and I've seen this before as well.
I'll just put my 6.9 star in there now.
6.9 stars for Eric.
I'm not even going to bury the lead. I love this movie, but sorry, go on.
First off, Margin Call. I am very bad with finances. All I know is what, Bruce? Is there anything you can say as far as making a really good, or Eric, as a good plot synopsis regarding what Margin Call, released in 2011, is all about?
I mean, I don't think you have to understand. Well, I'll put it this. I think Eric's going to pop in because he probably knows it really well. I'm going to say this is kind of like Queen's Gambit. Like, you don't have to understand the chess they're playing to understand the stakes and to understand what's going on and to enjoy it and to know what the drama's about. Same thing with this and finances. Like, they give you enough to understand the stakes, understand what's happening, even if you don't understand the intricacies, is what I would say.
Right. So essentially what this is, I don't even know if they gave a name in Margin Call, but there is an investment bank group of traders, and this company or this institution, they are very influential. It says here in IMDb, follows the key people at an investment bank over a 24-hour period during the early stages of the 2008 financial crisis. It's directed and written by J.C. Chandor. Chandor's had an amazing career. Back then, though, this was just 2011, I believe. And then since then, he's directed All Is Lost, and I think he's doing the new Craven movie. He did Triple Frontier. He's just a very interesting filmmaker. Who knows? Maybe even Craven might be good. But as far as Margin Call goes, I have a feeling, I don't know if Bruce and Eric agree with this, if Sidney Lumet it's a Sidney Lumet type of movie,
Yes.
inspired movie where it's heavy on the dialogue, heavy on the atmosphere. If you love movies like 12 Angry Men, and this is again a Sidney Lumet film, you're going to love Margin Call, because even though 12 Angry Men is a court case situation, Margin Call is sort of the thing that's being litigated, is the impending financial just crisis that's going to happen in 2008. And what do these people in these bigwigs in this investment bank do when they know that things are going to pretty much it's the bleep will hit the fan. So how do they lose enough? How do they actually leverage their investments and to make sure that they're the ones who actually are hit the least, as opposed to everyone else in the world who's going to get a really devastating blow? Starring in this movie is Zachary Quinto as a person who actually helps uncover what's going to happen in Margin Call. Also Stanley Tucci. He is look, Kevin Spacey, Paul Bettany, Jeremy Irons, Penn Badgley, I forget how to pronounce his name because I love him from You and Gossip Girl, but there's Mary McDonnell, Simon Baker, Demi Moore. It's just, again, another sort of a Sidney Lumet all-star kind of film, but this one is JC Chandor. Everyone does a great job in this movie, but I think as the bigwig of everyone, Jeremy Irons is a killer in this movie. He is fantastic, as well as Kevin Spacey. This is a movie, if you like just great performances, and this movie doesn't let up, even though it's all exposition and movement within the city of New York. It's just a very energetic, well-told, well-written, beautifully acted film that has high, considering Eric Holmes has seen it several times, high rewatchability factor. Let's go to Eric on your review of Margin Call.
Yeah, it's just well written, well directed. It's again, you don't have to understand what's going on because they kind of hold your hand through most of it. And I think unless you're in that world, you kind of need your hand held. Even when they're speaking over your head, just the reaction of people is like, oh, they seem worried. I guess I'm worried. And then they'll give like a metaphor. Here's an example of what this means. And then they basically, it's pretty easy to follow in that, oh, something bad's about to happen. We're doing this. This is why. Okay, that's how they're going to try to get out of it. I think given what people think of Kevin Spacey now, it's kind of weird seeing him be sort of a moral compass, the only moral compass in a movie. But I will co-sign Jeremy Irons is just like, he's just a shark in this, isn't he? Like the big wig that's like, hey, we're gonna do this thing. It's like Kevin Spacey coming back. It's like you realize that this is incredibly irresponsible and wrong, and I just love the way all the characters interact and the situation, how they decide to go about it. Stanley Tucci right off the bat gets fired, like F this company. And the whole, like shortly after, like, get Stanley Tucci back, and he's like, "Oh, F yourself." Like, he doesn't care. Like, it's fun watching how his character kind of plays with the whole idea here. Yeah, the only thing bad I have to say about it is, and it's not even anything bad about the movie, it's just Kevin Spacey has a reputation now, so that's going to be a hard hurdle for some people to climb. But man, this movie's really good.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, Bruce.
First watch for me, so that was interesting. First of all, acting tour de force with kind of writing, crackling writing, kind of in the same way that it's not Mamet per se, but it kind of has that. You feel like you're also in that world a little bit, like Glengarry Glen Ross kind of a thing, this cutthroat business world with a lot of characters. What I was struck about by this, other than it's this 24-hour period kind of a structure, which obviously kind of puts the pressure pot lid on, gives you like a time, kind of a ticking time clock thing going on. They have to get stuff done before the market opens. That's kind of the pressure, I guess, they build up. The other thing that kind of struck me about this was the structure of this is kind of like, lowest person on the totem pole notices something. The S is about to hit the fan. Takes it to the next person up. Then there's a whole interaction and like craziness between them. And then that person has to take it to the next person up. So you're basically working your way up this ladder all the way through the movie. And as you do that, each time you do it, you see the scary boss from the previous level all of a sudden not being the scary boss, and now they're the peon in that little structure, and it keeps doing that. So that stuff is all pretty fascinating to me, just kind of watching those machinations between these pretty much almost all terrible people. I think all terrible people. I think you could argue that Kevin Spacey has sold his soul too. He just talks a little bit louder.
Yeah, but I mean, what does that say? That he's still the moral compass of this?
Yeah, that's exactly true. I think the only drawback, the only thing that keeps it for me, and this is as a one-time watch, so give me the benefit there. I might watch it again and be like even further like positive on it. I am positive on it for sure. The only thing that kind of draws it back to me a little bit is this is a little bit of a Titanic movie in that we know what happened. We know these guys are all a-holes. We know these guys are all going to just save their own butts no matter what in the most cutthroat way they possibly can. And the little person isn't even a consideration, really. Like there's like the barest amount of lip service to it, but they don't really give a crap. And they barely give a crap about the people they work with. Only if the people they work with matter to them. Like, and that's the Stanley Tucci character, of course. So I think to me, there's a level of stakes that kind of doesn't exist here with these characters. Now, in the world, it exists. What they're doing matters immensely, but the world isn't what we watch. Like that is that is the implied threat. But for the actual characters we're watching, we know that they're going to do the bad thing, and we know that they're somehow going to get out of it okay in their world. The rest of the world won't. So I guess to me, there was a level of like stakes that was kind of lost. But as a dramatic, really well written, really well acted, really well paced, entertaining movie to watch, I think it was really, really well done.
I think this also has a lot in common with like something like Boiler Room, where it's like all these people are not good people, but I still want to see how this plays out.
Yeah. See, I react to all those movies the same. I watch them, I enjoy them while I watch them. I never watch them again.
Yeah, this is for me. Margin Call is high rewatchability. This is the second time I've seen it. I saw it a year and a half ago. Really loved it. Loved it more the second time around for me. What's great about this is you can actually cut out different clips, scenes from the movie, just to rewatch them over. On my
the fire sale scene in particular, I think.
Fire sale. There's there's a Jeremy Irons sequence where he's having food and he talks about the state of the state. And that's just amazing. There's also moments where it's in New York where someone is actually looking out at the top of a building and having conversations with people. That's memorable. There's so many different things to really enjoy about this movie, as like what Bruce was saying, this crackling writing. So yeah, for me, I don't think this movie is Sidney Lumet light. Like I think it's on a really high level. And yeah, maybe I'm overrating it, but for me, Margin Call, since I'm gonna keep on watching it, I have it on Blu-ray, by the way, 5 stars. Yeah, 5 stars with a bullet. Love it so much. Eric, I guess you gave your rating already. You said what?
Yeah, 6.9.
6.9 stars. Yeah. I guess the only mystery now is for Bruce Purkey and your rating for Margin Call.
4 stars.
4 stars for Bruce Purkey.
Yeah, all right, really good, really solid.
That averages out to 5, I think.
Yeah,
it does. It does. Ken Cunningham, thank you so much for your assigned pick for Margin Call. Yes, Bruce.
I will say, like, I really hope Kraven the Hunter does well, because I feel that if Kraven the Hunter is a flop, we don't get any more J.C. Chandor movies, because that's kind of how you get like really interesting filmmakers, and then they hop to a comic book movie. And it doesn't, if it does well, then they get stuck in comic books. And then if it doesn't do well, all of a sudden now they're a bad filmmaker and they don't get to do anything else. But I mean, he's got Margin Call, All Is Lost, Most Violent Year, Triple Frontier. I think they're all bangers. And, I'm hoping good things for Kraven the Hunter, but it seems like a step down for J.C. Chandor to be doing that. But we'll see what happens.
He did them. I think J.C. Chandor did the Margin Call on his bank account, and then Kraven the Hunter, he realized he's gonna make a lot of money. Markets open at a certain time. Kraven the Hunter, ding, 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 ding. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. He's made some really great movies though, so hopefully he'll bring some of that vision.
I think exclusively great.
Yeah.
There's not one he made that I don't like.
Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully, Kraven the Hunter will not be retitled All Is Lost when it comes out in theaters. We'll see what happens, okay? Let's see what happens with Kraven the Hunter. But as far as Margin Call, 4 stars from Bruce Purkey. That's 6.9 stars from Eric Holmes. And yes, I gave it 5 stars. That is Margin Call. Thank you, Kenneth Cunningham. Patreon members, hit us up with your assigned picks, movies that you want us to review every other week here on CinemAddicts. I think we are done. Bruce Purkey, are we done?
Everything's done except we have to pick a box movie, I think, for next week.
We have to pick up a box movie for next week. We also have to mention a couple of box picks this week. Thanks, Eric Holmes, for collecting this. Here are the additions to Bruce Purkey's What's in the Box. What Dreams May Come from Nikki Lee from Agent Recon. The Beastmaster from Derek Ting. Silent Rage from Derek Ting. Yojimbo from Mark Singer, from Agent Recon. Jeff Celentano from Blackwater Lane. He recommended Once Were Warriors, which Bruce Purkey reviewed on a past episode. I think, Eric Holmes, you've never seen this movie. You're going to love it. And Celentano also gave picks for The Deer Hunter. And that's it. So Bruce Purkey will be adding those movie selections for What's in the Box. Again, What's in the Box picks are from directors, writers, and filmmakers that Eric Holmes interviews on a weekly basis. Bruce Purkey, what do you have in the box? What's your box?
I should have done this ahead of time since I have to weed through all the things. I have to weed through them to find a. I think we did. Let's see here. Hang on. I'm trying to find one that's not just another person here, and it's this great pod once again.
Tom in the box.
Tom Guard.
Tom Guard. Okay. Yes, Tom Guard. Yes.
He picked Nicholas Roeg's Walkabout.
Okay. Did we? Eric Holmes. I think we did Walkabout. Eric Holmes, do you remember Walkabout at all?
I've seen it. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember if we did it or not.
Yes, we have done Walkabout.
You know what? I think maybe we talked about it. Maybe even so far back as movie Mainline.
Okay. Yeah.
So
but you know what? We can do a rewatch.
I'm happy to do
Bruce,
it.
Let's do Walkabout on CinemAddicts. Okay.
I could find another one here really quick. Let's see. Neil deGrasse Tyson said we should watch Don't Look Up. I am not watching Don't Look Up. There's heck no am I going to do that.
No,
you drew it twice. We have to do it if you drew it.
Fine. We'll do. You know what, Bruce?
You know what? We'll watch Don't Look Up, and since it's on Netflix, I believe, I'll watch it. I don't know what the fastest speed you can watch on Netflix. I know you can change the speed, so I will watch it on fastest speed possible.
You know it's going to be funny when you watch Don't Look Up, and it just like hits you. I'm like, Eric was right.
Okay. We'll see.
I'll be like, what? It was so weird in the end of Don't Look Up when Donald Sutherland, I can't say what happens. I don't want to spoil it, but Donald Sutherland finally caught up with the girl in the red coat.
Very, very,
at the end, good. Donald Sutherland looked up.
Yeah, or look now. Very good, Bruce Purkey, on that reference. All right, we're done. Final thoughts, Eric Holmes?
Check out Middle Class Film Class. Tyler Noe was on fire last episode, so check that out. And you know what? The person I was on there with, John Brooks, he's got a podcast called Pod Only Knows. Very interesting podcast. It's kind of religious theme, not necessarily leaning atheist, not necessarily leaning religious. It's kind of just asking questions and getting people and getting their comments on certain things. I only listened to 2 episodes so far, but pretty interesting, I think.
Okay, very good. As per usual, I'm Bruce Purkey.
I just want to mention that I think that we're secretly back in banger season, and we haven't really talked about it. But if people haven't noticed, there's been some interesting movies lately with Ghostlight. We have Humanist Vampire next week. I don't know if you guys are going to love it, but I think that the Green Border is really great. There's some really good under the radar stuff coming out right now that hopefully people are going to remember and check out, because you can go see Inside Out 2 is probably great, but come on now, we can see that in Disney Plus in a few weeks. Come on.
And if you want to commemorate banger season, we do have t-shirts at CinemAddictsPodcast.com. Just reminding you.
Yes, Eric Holmes, our resident pitchman. Thank you, Eric Holmes. CinemAddictsPodcast.com for your shower curtain shirts and petticoats. Did you tell me that you're going to start doing petticoats?
Ooh, is there underwear in there? Is there underwear?
We got petticoats. We got dog shirts.
Banger season underwear would be something.
Paddle tennis.
I can actually make that. I'll do that tonight.
Okay.
Because I got a banger season shirt. I'll make banger season. Well, and they might be like bikini bottoms or something. I'll figure something out.
Figure out what Eric Holmes is cooking over at CinemAddictsPodcast.com to fulfill your merch needs. Again, if you really do need a petticoat or a shower curtain or a horse-drawn horse-drawn carriage. Eric still hasn't done it we've been asking him for 2.5 years. A Giallo film. I forgot. Horse-drawn carriage. Eric, see if Teespring has that. That said,
CinemAddicts horse-drawn. You see, you don't want a regular horse-drawn carriage. Who wants that? you want to zhuzh it up with the CinemAddicts logo. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Speaking of zhuzhing it up, props to Jack Fitzpatrick, who does a YouTube channel. What is a YouTube channel, Bruce Purkey? Of Jack Fitzpatrick.
Let's crash this parade.
Let's crash this parade. Thank you, Jack Fitzpatrick. He said some really nice words to me, saying that I've been pretty funny recently.
He said you're funny.
He said I was funny recently.
The part I don't agree is recently. You've always been
no. I mean, I'm funny once in a while. Thank you.
Are you funny looking? Like
I'm funny looking as well. Funny looking as well. By the way, I wish Jack Fitzpatrick. Thank you so much. Thanks for actually appreciating talent. Something Eric Holmes and Bruce Purkey should have done years ago. Right, Eric? Bruce?
I've always appreciated you, Greg.
No. I'm talking about Anderson Cowan. You guys should have proved it.
When I see talent, I always appreciate it. I always appreciate the talent that I see.
Very good. Bruce Purkey will not say anything more. Enough said. And of course, here's Claire.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining CinemAddicts.